Ladies and gentlemen, a pleasant good evening on this rainy Monday here in NYC, man. Make sure you guys hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, make sure your post notifications are turned on, make sure you're sharing on your social media platforms. Truly appreciate it. Hope everybody's having a wonderful Monday, and thank you guys for always taking the time of liking, watching the videos, and listening to the content. Definitely appreciate y'all, man. Peace and blessings to everybody on the video. Today, the WWE posted a video on their YouTube channel of two of my all-time favorite legends that had a classic Hell in a Cell match that is under 2 days away from making it the 25th anniversary of this historic, significant, impactful Hell in a Cell match in WWE/wrestling history. And those two gentlemen had a previous feud about 2 years earlier that was actually one of the best, probably the best feud of all of 1996, in my personal opinion. I thought it was the best feud. That would be Mankind, aka Mick Foley, and The Undertaker, aka Mark Calloway. Two of the nicest human beings you will ever meet, two of the greatest WWE legends and wrestling legends of all time. They had to sit down and they rewatched the Hell in a Cell match. And they gave us an insight to what happened and how the story came to unfold. What's really interesting is that Mick had just gotten fired in kayfabe by Vince McMahon for failing to win the WWE title in his feud with Austin. And Dude Love had gone corporate. And that was one of the things I didn't like about the Dude Love character when he went corporate. It just didn't feel right for me. It didn't ring with me. Like, I just felt that it was out of place. I didn't like it. I know Austin needed an opponent, but I thought you could have kind of went with Mankind in that one. But that if you were gonna use Mick Foley, but I didn't like the Dude Love thing. I know some people they liked it, but I didn't like Dude Love. I just felt like for what his character was, to make him a heel and to have him go against Stone Cold was just weird. It was weird. I didn't like it. But anyway, he comes back as Mankind. And we know the character of Mankind for those who watch Mankind. Mankind is supposed to be known as a deranged, psychotic individual who goes at all lengths to make other people suffer with the amount of pain that he's had to deal with over the years of his life. And Mick is such an awesome storyteller, and he did wonderful work with the Mankind character. The Mankind character was the most successful character in the WWE, basically. I mean, he won all his championships, if not most of his championships, as the Mankind character. I think the only time he didn't was when he was tag champs with Austin in '97, after Shawn and Bret had that backstage fight that caused Bret to push back on his return. And then Shawn ended up re-injuring his knee, but he was going to be out for just a couple of days and stuff like that. So it was just fine. It was a couple of more weeks, actually. It was Bret Hart that was going to be good for a couple of more days. But anyway, so getting back, don't want to get too off track. Getting back to this Hell in a Cell match. It's about to be 25 years on June 28th. This is in Pittsburgh, and it was pretty hot, as JR calls it, on a warm summer igloos night here in Pittsburgh. Mankind, his character to me changed. He did a promo on Raw, I think a couple of weeks before the Hell in a Cell match between Taker and Mankind. And Taker was facing Kane, and the winner was supposed to be the #1 contender to Stone Cold's WWE Championship at the King of the Ring, which ended up being Kane due to Mankind's interference. And Taker and Mankind went back and forth, and Kane ended up winning and becoming the #1 contender to face Austin in a First Blood match. Mankind did a promo inside the cell. And when he did the promo inside the cell, he sounded really different. He sounded like more real. Like, he wasn't just saying these, deranged, psychotic comments that he would normally make, but it shows you how believable Mick Foley was as the Mankind character, and I have a ton of respect of him for it. But this was a very different promo. It was like, you're not hearing the typical Mankind. I said, bro, you're hearing a little bit of real Mick Foley here, in how he was talking. And he was like, man, he was like, I thought I had a lot of respect for you. He's like, I didn't expect this for you. And like what you did for Paul Bear, he called him an SOB. And I was like, I've never heard Mankind talk like this. I said, you're hearing a little realism in here, almost like a work shoot. And I was like, oh, okay, so now this is kind of, Mankind kind of made this personal. So Mick made it kind of a little personal when you listen to that promo. It's one of Mick's best promos. If you haven't listened to it, Mick, well, I know some people possibly may not like it, but to me, I thought it was one of Mick's greatest promos that he did in '98. A couple of weeks prior to the Hell in a Cell with it. If you haven't taken a listen to it, excuse me, if you can find some way, I don't know if you have Peacock or anything, guys, but if you do, like, definitely go to WWF Raw, and they have all the episodes from every season up to right now, currently in 2023. Definitely look back in 1998, and I believe that would be season 6. But really check that out. It's somewhere in June prior, and that it was one of the greatest promos I've ever heard from Mick. Anyway, Mick and Taker, I believe Undertaker came into this match with he had either an ankle injury or a broken foot, from what I heard. And I didn't even know he came into that match with an injury. But at that point, he was also changing too. He was becoming a little more satanic in his character. He was showing a little bit of the American badass. A couple of times he came in his biker clothing. At times, and there was a work shoot that he did at the start of June, because he wanted Vince McMahon and he wanted to be the #1 contender for the title, and he was talking basically about a lot of Vince's handpicked champions and all this kind of stuff, even though it was kayfabe, but it felt real. Even though Taker was telling the truth in a lot of what he was saying that night. But getting back to the match, Mick decides to start from the top of the cage. Okay. Taker comes and he's looking at it, and Mick is just looking down at him to try to basically say, I dare you to come up here and try to fight me because I don't want to fight in the ring. So there you go. You have the storytelling right there. Taker climbs up, and Taker was basically saying Mark was saying how uncomfortable it was for him to climb. So there's that. They have the match. You know, they're throwing some right hands here and there, and then Mankind kind of gained the upper hand, had a steel chair, hits Taker in the back. Taker fights back, and Mick is flailing his arms, and then Taker's looking over there by the table where JR, and what people forget about this match is that you have to give JR and King a lot of credit because they sold the hell out of this match. They sold the hell out of this Hell in a Cell. JR's calls is one of the most iconic calls of all time. So Taker throws him. I couldn't believe what I was seeing as a kid. I was a 10-year-old kid when this match happened. I didn't turn 11 until the next month. And I was in 5th grade. I remember being so shocked. I could not say a word for nearly 15 minutes after Taker threw Mick Foley off the Hell in a Cell. I literally thought that when he threw him, I thought Mick was dead. I thought he was dead. I said, I cannot believe a wrestler threw another wrestler over the top of a damn cage. That's just crazy. And then Mick ended up separating his shoulder. I know a lot of EMTs and a lot of officials came out to check on him to see if he was okay. Mick was kind of out of it, almost if you could have probably thought he probably might have had a concussion. Taker was like, okay, in his mind, the night is over and wants to go home. Taker was, the cage was being pushed up, right? And then it was being pushed up. Taker was still on top and he had to get down, so they had to lower the cage down. One of the most insane moments happened. Mick is by the entranceway in the gurney, being stretchered out. Slowly gets up. And the look that Mick gives, Mick didn't have his mask anymore by that point. They had to take off his mask. Mick flails his left shoulder and decides to go back to the Hell in a Cell. I said, is he a cat? Does he have 8 lives? I said, I thought you died outside that ring when you landed on the announce table by the guardrail. And it's always the Spanish announcers. Always. No love for Carlos Cabrera, Hugo Savinovich. No love. I don't know what it is. But anyway, they go back up, and I'm like, you got to be kidding me. And I was scared. I was scared because I thought something really bad was going to happen to Mick. I was like, bro, we just saw something bad happen. And I was just like, yo, something worse can possibly happen than this with the fact that he came back. I was like, I grew an immense amount of respect for him because I'm like, I don't even know how he's standing after that. But he is. They go back to the top of the cell. They fight. Taker comes back. And Mick Foley mentioned this, and I didn't even realize it until I watched the tape again. But he was saying that another cool moment would have been, because the thing is, Mick got a really loud pop when he decided he wanted to go back up there. But it's crazy. They should have exchanged right hands just to make sure that Mick Foley was okay. Like, it's just pure adrenaline just running at this point. That would have been nice to have a nice exchange of right hands. And I shout out to Mick for mentioning that, because I was like, that's true. I said it would have gave it more. They're like, wow, he's a crazy SOB, and it's like his engine is still going. Like, the man is trading shots with Taker. Like, it's crazy. I was like, bro, I have a new level of respect for Mick Foley, man. Unbelievable. So Taker chokeslams him through the cage. The way Mick's head hit the damn canvas, I said, bro, I said, this time he's dead. I said, no, he's dead. And I remember JR was like, good God. And then the King goes, okay, that's it, he's dead. Because that's what I thought too. I thought he was dead. I said, it's bad enough you got thrown off the cell, but the way your head bounced off the mat after that chokeslam from the top of the roof of the cage. I was like, if Mick gets up from this dude is not human. I was like, he's not human. Terry Funk gets chokeslammed out of his shoes. I thought that was pretty funny. With Terry Funk kind of flailing his arms after Taker chokeslammed him. I thought that was funny. But then it's all good. Taker tries to do old school, and then Mick kind of chops that top rope, and then Taker, lands in his groin area. But then they take the match outside the cell, outside the ring, inside the cell, and Taker hits him with the steps over the shoulder and all that kind of stuff. But then Taker tries to go for a suicide dive and ends up hitting the front of the cage, and then he's busted open. And then Mick somehow mounts an offensive. Mick has got a tooth in his nose. Mick was not smiling, but JR sold it like he did. Mick takes a decent amount of control in the match. Then he comes out with the damn thumbtacks, which is something that you had really never seen, in a hardcore match up to that point. And then you finally see thumbtacks. So then Mick is trying to get the Undertaker to fall on those tacks. And what happens? Taker's able to counter, and then he pretty much put him in a back body drop. But the thing was, the back body drop was botched because it was nowhere near the tacks, so Foley had to roll, and good improvisation on his part, to roll into the tacks and make it seem like if Taker backdropped him on there, because he actually missed the backdrop on the tacks. So then Mick, I forgot what he was trying to do. I think it was either going for a DDT. He ended up going on top of the Undertaker because the Undertaker was trying to kind of get him in a position for the tombstone, but couldn't. So anyway, he caught him on his back, and then Taker does the whole electric chair drop, and Mick's back is filled with tacks. Then the Undertaker then decides to chokeslam Mick onto the tacks on his back, then finishes him off with the tombstone. He wins the match, and after the match was over, I remember JR was going nuts. I know he got cheered at the end of the match. I think there was an exclusive, and they were just chanting Foley, 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 because that just showed you the respect that he had earned that night when we thought on 2 different occasions he had died in the ring, or at least in that arena, and he came back fighting. 2 all-time legends right there, giving you everything that they have. And I remember JR was like, they're giving you everything that they had for the desire, the will. Going back into that match, it's not the most technically sound, because I would have to give that to Shawn Michaels and Undertaker, the very first inaugural Hell in a Cell match. That was a 5-star classic in how they were able to tell the story, and how they were able to set up the in-ring psychology, the ability to make the cell part of the feud and part of the match. It was almost as like, in Shawn's case, he was going 2-on-1. You got to deal with the Undertaker and you got to deal with that cell. For the Undertaker, it was like you found somebody that meshes styles with you very well, has the ability to quicken the pace, and then has the ability to take an insane amount of punishment and keep coming back. That was Shawn Michaels in a nutshell. And that's how they were able to have the chemistry that they had in their first. But the difference between that one is, and there's like, if you look at the technical ability, I always give it to the first Hell in a Cell match. But if you look at what Taker and Foley did, it was different. This was a more physical, hard-hitting. It's not a technical masterpiece by any means, but it's the cell that's most remembered, because Ric Flair was on record at criticizing Mick, basically saying that Mick is not a great wrestler and that he's just a glorified stuntman. He's a stunt double. Now, I don't know if that stems from anything from, what happened in this class when it comes to how to address certain things. You just feel like it doesn't have to go there. But getting back to the match, I remember I was just in total shock, and I just had the desire to just clap in appreciation for the fact that one is out of here. But this was an amazing match. I think what this match did was this was the peak of the Attitude Era. This match right here was the peak of the Attitude Era. I say that because it set a standard that to me has not been set since then. Mick Foley was basically saying he felt that he was not a main event superstar by that point in his career. And Taker said, you had already done amazing work. It's just that this match took you to new heights. And Ric Flair called Mick a glorified stuntman. He says he's a guy that really got off his billing for what he endured at the Hell in a Cell match at the King of the Ring. That's how he got his fame. He basically saying he didn't get his fame by being a great wrestler, by being a great charismatic talker, a combination with his in-ring skills. He felt Foley was overrated and he felt he wasn't great. He said the only reason that you're getting notoriety is for this one match, and the one match that you're in what it did. That's how Rick felt. That's how he felt. But comparing the 2 Hell in a Cell matches, like I said, Shawn and Taker were able to use the story of the structure of the cell to create fear in opponents. And the person who's there all the time is the most comfortable. And I mentioned that this was hard-hitting and it was physical. The storytelling was incredible. It was incredible. You thought a guy had died and he rose from the dead. He died twice but came back. And he's able to relive and tell you this story. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to give a shout out to Mick and The Undertaker for doing this amazing look back at their classic Hell in a Cell match. Because like I said, it's not the most aesthetically pleasing technical match that you're looking for, but it definitely is up there with pretty much how they had to deal with things. And that's why I respect these two legends so much, because they've done so much for the business. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, this is your boy Louis with another one. Let me know what you guys think of that Hell in a Cell match between Taker and Mick Foley. I felt like that was the match that really changed the Attitude Era to be on top of the ratings for sure over WCW. All right, let me know what you guys think. Bless up, live, love. Thank you guys for watching. Shout out to Taker and Mick Foley, two of the all-time greats.